All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So today we are going to be looking at the first people to actually come to the American continents. We're going to look at the first civilizations. We're going to look up at the natives here and things like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the objective, we're going to analyze the impact Europeans had on the indigenous people here of North America. And we're going to point out specifically the specifics of the characterization of nomads. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the warm up. All right, so here's your warm up picture. The first question basically asks you what's going on, or I believe it's or like three things that you see. Again, I don't have the paper with me. I do apologize, but you guys should have it. So go ahead and answer the first two questions. So the warm up. Pay attention to what the lady says at the bottom. She says, well, tell me, is this Aztec, Mayan, Olmecs, or Toltecs? Okay, so that should kind of help you out with this picture. Okay, so go ahead and put your responses down. Um, Pause the video because we're moving on in three, two, one. All right, so here's the thing. No one, no matter, I don't care who they are or what show or TikTok or whatever thing it is, no one can definitely say exactly when the first man set foot in the Americas. Nobody was there to take a date, to commemorate the event. No, no one did. Okay. There is evidence, however, that the first man that was here in America was about 10,000 years ago. But further research and further investigation has found that it was actually somewhere between 15 to 30,000 years ago. Now, these people who crossed the ice bridge connecting Alaska to Russia, they were considered to be nomads. Now, nomads is a term you should have learned from world history as well as your eighth and seventh grade history classes as well. But just in case those teachers never explained it to you or you weren't paying attention at those times, a nomad is a person or a group of people who follow the food. Okay, if the herd of buffalo is going that way, they're going that way too. If the it gets cold and the berries and the fruit from the trees and the bushes and stuff like that is getting going away, they're going to head south to where it's warmer. Okay. Now the thing is, the Native Americans started to learn how to do agricultural work. Okay, so they kind of like learned to settle. Now their agricultural work, um, it was standard. You know, but the thing is, that's how civilization starts when nomads decide, you know what, this is a great place to live. We should grow food to sustain ourselves instead of following the food and going with the seasons. No, this place is home. That's how civilization starts. Now, the earliest civilization actually came between 1500 to 1200 BC. These were the Olmecs in southern Mexico. Okay, they were the first civilization here in the American continents. Later on, the Toltecs would come around, and then the Aztecs and Mayans. Actually, Mayans would come first, and then the Aztecs. But the thing is, these two groups, the Aztecs and Mayan, they built impressive civilizations, impressive temples and buildings and structures. Um, their trade route was phenomenal. They could trade with people all over Mexico and uh, Central America and some of that. Now, the thing is, the Aztecs actually built a city on a lake, you know, and when Cortez comes, which we'll learn about him later on, he is deeply impressed, because they see these half-naked people and they're like, oh my God, these guys are savages, they're probably idiots, things like that. They don't even speak our language, they don't know about our gods. And then when he sees a city on top of a lake, he was impressed. Okay. Now, like I said, um, there was a lot of trade. Okay, and not only did they trade goods, they traded information, cultivation, how to grow crops. That type of information traveled all throughout North America. Um, it helps so much that even tribes like in Arizona, the Hohokam, they learn to grow food in the desert in Arizona. Okay, let me repeat that. They actually learn how to grow food in the desert. That's pretty impressive. Because if you've never been to a hot place like Arizona, that ground is sand. You're not going to grow anything out there. Okay, but with the techniques and the the advantages that they learned from other civilizations all around, they were able to grow food, which is quite impressive. So now we're going to focus again on the European side. Um, People all across Europe couldn't get enough of the items from Persia, India, and China. They loved the spices that came out from that area. They loved the perfumes, how wonderful they smelled. The silk that came from China, so soft and so just beautiful. Same thing with the jewelry. The jewels that were not seen in Europe could be found in Persia, India, and China. So what happened was there's a lot of rich people in Europe who were like, "Oh, I have to have these spices. I have to have these perfume, silks, or whatever. Um, I'll pay somebody big money to go get it." So these caravans were like, "Oh, really? You're gonna? How much would you spend?" And they would give them an outrageous amount. So it was worth the gamble. Okay. So caravanning became very popular, but it came with a lot of risks. Okay. Um, as you can see from the map, the lines in red, those are the trails that they took. Those are the fastest trails around that area. If someone deviated out of the red area, they could get lost, or the terrain would be difficult to pass and they would lose time. Um, Same thing with the blue lines. Those are the water on the boats. Those were the quickest way, depending on the wind, depending on the the sea. You know, um, those were the quickest ways to each of those spots. Okay. Now, Portugal, Spain, France, England, they all sent ships and traders to go to Persia, India, and China to get these items to sell them to these rich people. All right, so you should have a question on your paper about what are some risks that you think they would encounter on the trade routes. There's like three major ones. So think to yourself, what would happen if someone knew that these wagons full of material, silk, spices, perfumes, if these things were worth like millions, and they knew they were going to go through this particular road, what might happen? Okay, think of also what happens between in the red, you know, even in the blue. Um, what happens with countries? You know, do they all get along? Do they have problems, issues, things like that? Okay, and think of environmental. What issues would the environment bring on land or sea? Look at that area. It's really going to help you out um, to answer that question. Okay, so give your response, but pause the video because we're moving on in three, two, one. So here's your next question. Do you think that European settlers discovering the New World was inevitable? Do you think it was going to happen? Yes or no? Why do you believe this? Okay, so do you think eventually, some way, somehow, between this time in the 1400s to now, do you think if Europeans would eventually have discovered this area? What do you think? Okay, write down your response. If you have trouble writing down your response, there's a writing prompt right there to help you out. Okay, so pause the video, write your response, but we're moving on in three, two, one. Well, apparently I completely forgot that that was also your exit ticket question. So um, if you answered it, awesome. Okay. But again, be sure you answer that question. Do you think it was inevitable? Now remember, in class I asked and to see if anyone would share, and if someone did, then it was like, okay, that's cool. And then and that was gonna be the exit ticket. Okay. So that's the end of this lesson. Hopefully you learned something new. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Um, the next video will be coming up. All right. So you guys, you take care, be safe, and I'll see you in class. All right.